So good morning.
It sure is. It's beautiful out.
We're well.
Springs are coming. The warm weather's coming around the corner.
Yep.
And anything that we say is not meant to diagnose any of you or cure anyone. This is just meant for educational purposes.
No treatments.
Check with your doctor before taking any of our advice. We have a lot of callers lined up. We have a lot of good questions. I don't know, what should we talk about today? Is there any hot topics in the news or anything like that?
Well, and hopefully we have a lot more people with us today because a lot of people are have the time. So we're going to talk about building the immune system because I think that's what's on everybody's mind.
Yeah, and I have a lot of great data for that. So we will get into that. Stay tuned. But let's go to Tara. She's calling from Vancouver, British Columbia, probably one of the most beautiful places on the planet. Hi, Tara.
Hi, thank you, doctor. My question is, if men can take your adrenal stress advanced formula, my husband been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, so I'm wondering if can he take that for the stress?
Good question. I have a question for you. Does your husband have fibromyalgia more on the right side of the body or the left side?
Whole body.
The whole body, okay. Well then,
Yeah,
then he needs to take it because it's not just for women, it's for men too. And so, yeah, I think it'll greatly help him. Make sure though he goes on keto and intermittent fasting at the same time because that's going to drop inflammation. In addition to that, I want him to take more vitamin D because vitamin D also will drop inflammation. And then the last thing is B1. B1 also helps get rid of lactic acid from the muscles that may mimic fibromyalgia, especially if it's in your muscles. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. And then Sonia, she's calling from Chicago. Hi, Sonia, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi.
Hi. I have a question. My mom just found out that she has a right coronary artery blockage, 90%, so they weren't able to open it and put a stent in. They are going to start her on statins, and I know that's really not good for middle-aged women. She is in her 70s, and this is her first diagnosis of any kind of heart condition. And I know you talk about the D3K2 and how that works with pulling calcium out. How much should she take of that?
Okay, so I want to just, before I answer the question, I want to say that this is, of course, in no way going to cure anything, but this is just my advice in general for calcium in the artery. I would take K2, I would take 400 micrograms of the MK7 version of vitamin K2, okay? Now, I would also take D3, I would take at the same time 40,000 international units of vitamin D at the same time. The other thing that you want that may help your mom is to take a good full complex of vitamin E, including the tocopherols and the tocotrienols, because that's a natural blood thinner. And also it protects the lining of the inside of the arteries against oxidative damage. So it's a really powerful antioxidant. It's good for the cardiovascular system, and it will also help the heart muscle itself. It will increase more oxygen to the muscle. In fact, if you're vitamin E deficient, the muscles get weaker and they don't have enough oxygen. And then the last thing that I would recommend is a really good source of magnesium. Of course, the food base would be best, but magnesium is as important as vitamin K2 in regulating excess soft tissue calcium, especially in the arteries. Magnesium has a purpose of keeping calcium out of the inside of the tissues and the cells. So it's kind of a regulator of excess calcium that builds up. And so they work together. And so and also potassium works as well. So there's a whole, a three-way going on there. I think I may have done a video on this. If I haven't, I will, but the relationship, I'm going to make a note right now for myself. Magnesium keeps the calcium out of the wrong places in your body. All right, thanks for your call. And then Raj is calling from North Carolina. You had a question, Raj. Are you there?
We had a hard time hearing him earlier. I don't know if that's
Okay,
his.
so Raj, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
Oh.
yeah. I'm here.
okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a question about SIBO. I want to thank you for taking my call and posting how to get rid of SIBO. I don't know if I have a tachycardia when I eat. So I've been put on beta blockers for that, and I'm having side effects. So I'm trying to taper that off. But every time I eat, I get now. We did an organic acid test and found out that I have a lot of, bacterial growth, from organic acid test. So I don't know if there's a way to confirm it, but I'm doing intermittent fasting for about, a year now, and I do 12 to 18 hours, anywhere between 12 to 18 hours.
Okay.
But and I tried to feel the wall tenderness on the right side. I couldn't, but I do have a tenderness on the left side. So what do you recommend for SIBO, or why? Whenever I eat, I don't know if it's related to SIBO or, what.
Okay.
I have a very high,
All right.
heart rate.
Let me explain what to do for SIBO. SIBO stands for small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. Okay, so you have 90% or 95% of all the friendly bacteria should be in the large intestine. That's the last part. But what happens with SIBO is it moves up to this, backs up into the small intestine. So it shouldn't be there, because if you're now having bacteria in the wrong location, it'll start fermenting fiber too soon in the digestive tract. So then you get the bloating and the issues, and then these microbes compete and start eating your nutrients. So then you become nutritionally deficient. So it's a situation. So what do you do? Well, realize that there's this huge connection between your gut and your brain. It's a highway. It's called the vagus nerve, and 90% of that nerve goes from your digestive system back up to the brain, and only 10% goes down, which means that you have a lot of feedback going on from your gut to your brain. So if your gut's not right, boy, you're not going to feel right. So one of the things you definitely need to do is, 12 hours to 18 hours, I would go to one meal a day, because you need to fast longer to start cleaning it out. You also need to take a natural probiotic, oregano, garlic, thyme, rosemary, clove. They're all natural probiotics. You need to take that. I would definitely take betaine hydrochloride, apple cider vinegar, to start to acidify the stomach. That would help. I would not recommend consuming any probiotics or any fiber. So you need to be on a carnivore for about 2 months, because if you feed the fiber to these microbes in the wrong place, it's like you're feeding them. So we want to starve them. Okay? All right. Thanks for your call. Okay, Karen.
Yeah.
Looks like we got people coming, tuning in from all over the place.
world. All over the world. You guys, first of all, I want to say to Valentino, who's in New York City, keep the hope alive, brother. Glad you're tuning in. We have people from Canada. A lot of people from Canada this morning.
Wow, that's great.
It's like Canada is tuned in. All over the U.S., of course. UK, Egypt, Australia, South Africa, North Africa, Ghana, which is in there somewhere. France, Palestine, Sweden, Madagascar, Pakistan, Belgium, Moscow, Trinidad, and
Wow.
they just keep coming in. So,
Love it.
yeah. Now I have some questions from these guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Angie has right shoulder pain.
Mhm.
And her question is about should she be doing modalities or stretching. But I bet I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, 99.99999% of the time.
That's a lot. That's
Angie,
safely most.
it's the problem is actually not in the right shoulder. It can be, 0.0001% of the time. But
So you got a sports injury or something like that.
most of these injuries, most of them you don't have any physical injuries, so it's really being referred by your gallbladder. And so what you do, just try this experiment. Just massage underneath your right rib cage. Just press in there, hold that for a minute, and see if your right pain goes down. If it improves, then we know there's a connection between the two.
And there's a video on that.
Because the hip bone's connected to the
Thigh
shoulder
bone.
bone. Yeah, there's a video. I have a lot of videos on right shoulder pain, but it's really referred, and it has to do with what you're eating. I would do healthy keto with good amount of vegetables. I would do intermittent fasting and probably cut down your fats a little bit. Don't take any MCT oil or keto bombs right now, and just see if your right shoulder pain goes away. It should, in theory.
Okay, good. So let's see. Oh, question on how to get trained on the keto course. Well, you just go to drberg.com.
Yeah, if you go to the shop site, well, there's actually a button underneath keto right at the top, but if you go to the shop site, there's actually a course. You can take the course and learn it, but I think you guys will love this course. If you, I think it's important to do something that you really, really love and to help people. So if you wanted a new profession, keto coaching is the way to go. Get trained.
Yeah, you can get trained in your downtime if you're not able to go to work right now. You can get trained, and then you can help
Coach
your
people
family and friends
remotely.
build their immune system, and then maybe, you know, for exchange. And there are plenty of people who've done it as an income.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Kelly from Facebook, why would bile salts help her belly fat?
Well, they may not help your belly fat. They're just going to improve your digestion. And bile salts help break down fats, dietary fats. So you can actually use them as various things. So they also are a lubricant. So if you're deficient in bile, you could be constipated, and you could be feeling like you're fat, but you're just you're full of it, you just can't eliminate.
You feel like it's belly fat when really you're just backed up because you're not eliminating the mass that you need to eliminate.
That's right.
Okay, good. So Lisa on YouTube says, what kind of magnesium should she be taking?
I'm releasing a video on all the different sources of magnesium. So
really?
Yeah. And I'm going to save that because I want to talk about each one separately.
Okay.
And rather than just tell you the one that I recommend.
Well, Lisa, you're a mind reader. That's very interesting that she asked that question. I don't think I ever had a question like that.
Very intuitive.
And then you just did a video.
Extremely intuitive, but I will say that you can get a lot of magnesium from chlorophyll in the green part of the plant. So if you're eating salad, just eat the green part and you'll get all the chlorophyll. Actually, the whole thing's green, isn't it?
Okay, good. Now, a couple questions here about building the immune system for someone who's pregnant.
Well,
I don't know that that's any different.
It would be the exact same thing as if you were not pregnant,
Right.
but I think it's very, very important to prepare your body actually before you get pregnant and also during. It's like the most important time to eat healthy is while you're pregnant, especially the first trimester. And the problem is they don't emphasize that, so they're just pretty much eating what they want, and then all of a sudden there's problems. So it's vital to get the nutrients from the food. But I think we should talk about immune system right now.
Okay, good.
So
I want to say first, even though we don't talk about it a whole lot, the part of taking care of yourself is absolutely following all of the hygiene recommendations that are being forwarded.
Well, I just wish that they would talk about that more because, I mean, I don't think people know
Well, I think that
to where, not sneeze in front of you and wash your hands because it's kind of a...
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? But I think that people probably just haven't done that to the extent that they need to. Well,
yeah.
Obviously right now it's very, very important that a particular protocol that that's being issued by your local and federal government and things like that you have to follow these things. But it's a lot of common sense in there. And you're right. I think people do. They don't think, oh, sneeze into a tissue, cough into a tissue, or something like that. wash your hands after you've been out and about. Wash your hands, you know. It's important. This is also a part of immunity. You're hearing it all over the place, but it's really, really important that you do follow all those guidelines.
Well, you know, an interesting thing, I travel a lot, probably shouldn't, but I went to a truck stop, I went in to get some beef jerky, and I thought about the steps that happen. So I go over there, I wash my hands, go to the restroom, wash my hands, then I grab the beef jerky off the rack, and maybe it's safe at that point. Then I go up, and the lady at the counter has gloves on. But who's to say that she's touching everything? So those gloves are contaminated.
Right.
She hands it back to me.
Oh.
Then, you know, I tear off the top, and then I start eating with my hands. So what I've been doing is, you know, being a little extra paranoid. And when I get out of the car, I just wipe down the bag a little bit and use a little sanitizer, because everything in the store, there's no possible way they can keep all that stuff sterile. They're not doing anything wrong. It's just they're touching 100 products an hour as people hand it to them, and a Coke and a this
Yeah.
and a candy bar. So, you know, it goes, I think, almost beyond common sense. You have to just really, once you get it out, sterilize yourself again once you're in the car, you know, wipe down the product and do that. But otherwise, it's almost an impossible chase, I think, when you're traveling.
Yeah,
I
and
think-
that comes to what our point is. Yes, common sense. Yes, extra caution right now, and sanitizers isn't necessarily a replacement for washing your hands, but do it all. But it comes down to how strong is your immune system?
So you have the strategy of the virus. The virus basically attacks the weak, and so
Any virus.
if someone's has a weakened immune system, they need to avoid this virus at all costs. And those are the people who really need to be quarantined more than anyone else, because they're weak and they're more at risk, especially if you have pre-existing lung issues and asthma and history
Any
of
chronic
pneumonia
illness,
and
yeah.
diabetes and whatever. But here's the thing that they're not talking about, and they're not talking about how do you strengthen your immune system. I want to talk about basically the key nutrient for strengthening the immune system. Vitamin C is right at the top, but you also have the other one, which is zinc, which is probably even higher. Zinc is fascinating as far as what it does for several reasons. Number one is that it's involved in a few hundred enzymes. That means biochemical reactions. So it's involved in a lot of stuff: reproduction, growth and development, skin, but the immune system is at the top of the list. So if you're deficient in zinc, Karen, do you realize that you'll get atrophy, shrinkage of your thymus gland that actually develops and trains your killer T cells? I mean, like your lymphocytes, your white blood cells.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so if you're deficient in zinc, not only do you have certain issues with, making testosterone in your skin, but you also will have your thymus gland will shrink. Your spleen will enlarge, okay? You ever hear splenomegaly, where it gets big? That is a zinc deficiency. The bone marrow, where you make the white blood cells, needs zinc as a precursor. So the lung tissue has a lot of receptors for zinc. So zinc protects the lungs. Zinc is anti-inflammatory. Zinc can be used as a preventative thing to protect you against microbes, especially viruses. Zinc can also decrease the transmission of the virus, because, like chloroquine is a drug now that they're going to use extensively, and chloroquine, it's not really even the chloroquine that's killing the virus, it's what it does to zinc. It allows zinc to travel through the cell wall. And if there's enough zinc in that cell, then the copy machine is no longer going to copy the virus anymore. So that's huge. And people, there's the opposing side that says, well, that's anecdotal evidence and blah blah blah. Well, actually, I'm going to do a video there now. There's some actually pretty credible evidence that shows that it's significant improvement. And also, why even wait? Since zinc handles so many other parts of your immune system, why would you not want to actually do something to get zinc into the cell? Zinc will also decrease the duration of infections. it decreases, it fights the fever aspect, it increases the resistance. I mean, all these factors, and this should be like at the top of the list. The reason why that zinc is so important now, because when you get an infection, you actually have your zinc levels drop down, way down to nothing. So having an infection depletes your zinc, and also there's not a lot of storage facility for us to store zinc. And this is why, unless you're getting it every day, you're going to be somewhat deficient.
So how are you going to get it every day? Is it in something you're eating? Do you have to take a supplement?
And this is what I want to talk about. How do you get zinc? How many people, when's the last time you ate an oyster? I mean, zinc is mainly in shellfish, seafood, and it's also in red meat and liver. So if you are a vegan or a vegetarian, and you don't eat that, and you're also eating the things that will deplete and block zinc absorption,
like?
Which is whole grains. Whole grains. The bran. You're doing cereals,
Rice.
breads, pasta, cereal, crackers, biscuits, waffles, pancakes, muffins, rice, and you're doing that, and guess what? You are going to be blocking zinc. Now, everything's pushed to a plant-based, but yeah, you can get some zinc from plant-based, like pumpkin seeds, but you're not going to get nearly as much. It's not going to be as available. So this is why 2 billion people on this planet have insufficient amounts of zinc in their body. I mean, it's huge. So it's a very relevant topic, an important nutrient. So start consuming your red meat and shellfish, and you can also take zinc, especially nowadays, just to protect yourself. I will be doing more on this, and I'm going to talk more about this after we go to some questions, because I'm not done talking about this zinc. But do you want me to answer a question, or do you want to?
Take a call.
All right. So David is from Ohio, and you actually lost 100 pounds, Dave, on keto, but you're having gout attacks. Can you tell me about that?
Yes. Well, I started September 1st. I've lost 100 pounds as of today.
Great.
I went to the doctor last week. My A1C was from 6.0 down to 5.3. All my blood work was really good, except my uric acid was high with my urine test and everything. So he put me back on alpurinol. But I've been having these attacks, and it's just like, I'd rather cut my arm off than have these attacks.
Yeah.
You know? It hit my thumb and my index finger this last time. I can't even play my guitar. I'm a musician.
Ooh.
So, yeah, it's...
Okay. Well, guess what?
But I'd rather...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, all the benefits I've had from this, my skin is cleared up, my blood pressure's down, everything is working. I had skin tags under my arms. They're disappearing.
Wow.
It's just so many pluses have gone on that
Yeah.
I just can't afford to quit what I'm doing.
Yeah, I got it. So there's some things you can do, and I'm sure that you may be doing some of these, but I'm going to give you a list of things. The way to kind of what's happening, especially when you do intermittent fasting, is your uric acid levels do go up. Your acidity does go up. So the pH is what I would be focusing on. If you're not already consuming a large amount of vegetables, I would do that, because the vegetables will counter they're alkaline. They'll tweak the pH and make you a little bit more alkaline. But you want to change the pH, your urine pH, to about, let's say, 6, from a 5 to a 6, a higher 6, maybe 6.5, 6.8, to allow these uric acid crystals not to leak out into the tissues. So it's a kind of a simple thing if you understand it, but increase the vegetables and also start taking something called potassium citrate. You can do it in a electrolyte powder, or just take it, but potassium citrate is an alkalizer, and the citrate, which also helps the uric acid as well as oxalates as well. But you can do that. Lemon juice will help. But that's what you want to do right now. The other thing is that it's gout usually is kind of a kidney weakness, so anything you can do to improve your kidney function would be very beneficial. Maybe there's some nutrients. And the last thing I want to tell you is I just was reading some things on zinc. Having enough zinc can lower the amount of uric acid in your output, so you might want to add that. Thanks, David.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh, one more thing.
And say hi to Karen.
Hey,
Oh, hi,
David.
Karen.
David?
I'm going to say one
Yes.
thing. OH.
IO.
Woohoo!
I
Have a good day.
Go Bucks.
Go
All
Bucks.
right. Thanks.
Okay, so
It's
that's
a big Ohio thing. I
that's a
learned
big
that
thing.
all my
Okay.
time in Ohio.
Okay, great. Awesome.
OH.
All right, let me just take Pedro from Detroit, Michigan. You had a question.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. My question was, I have psoriasis. I have psoriasis all over my elbows, my back, my legs, my knees, and I was wondering, what should I do to take to eliminate my psoriasis?
Yeah, good question. Now, are you doing healthy keto and intermittent fasting yet?
No, I'm not. I just heard about it.
Okay, good. So what you do is very simply, you go to my website, drberg.com. There's a blog up there, and you click blog, and then it says the first video, it says start here, and you watch that, and there's a second one, next one, and you just go down the list to start implementing healthy keto and intermittent fasting, especially because those two things together, Pedro, will greatly improve the integrity of your skin. It's kind of like there's a lot of remedies out there, but honestly, they won't work unless you get this basic eating plan in, and you're going to improve the quality of your skin, your health. You are in for a treat, and I'm glad that you just learned about it, because you're going to love it. The other thing that you can also add to speed things up is to make sure when you're doing this, add a good source of B vitamins from nutritional yeast, but more importantly, some vitamin D, vitamin D3, minimally 10,000 IUs every day, probably 20,000 IUs. When it becomes sunny out, get sun, that would be your form of vitamin D, and then those days you don't need to take vitamin D. But I would take 20,000 IUs of vitamin D3 because that's targeted for psoriasis. And the last thing, if you still have psoriasis after all these things, then we know it's coming from your gut, and you need to watch my videos on that. Karen, I noticed that you have some really interesting questions coming up here. What do you got?
So there's another zinc question, but I don't know if I want to ask it now or
Go
when
for it.
you're ready to.
No, I'm ready. I'm ready for
He's
the
all
zinc.
about the zinc this week.
I'm all about the zinc.
So someone asked, how do grains block zinc?
Because there's something in grains called phytic acid or phytates. And phytates are there to, they're in the seed that actually is part of locking up phosphorus. And so they're kind of a protective thing, and then all of a sudden you sprout them when you grow them, and then that opens up. So it's a protective, like a very powerful antioxidant, protect them against oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
So you think, well, it's really good, but it's very, very, basically just it blocks zinc. And I think the reason why it blocks zinc is that it has something, zinc has to do with the growth even of plants. And so we don't want to activate that zinc. So anyway, it blocks zinc, and the fiber, primarily the bran in seeds, and then of course, what does this seed turn into? Flour, like in breads and pasta, and that's what you make it. So, but it's also in the bran of rice, and so those grains will block zinc, and so will a stomach. Like if you have malabsorption problems because you have like a history of like gut issues or low stomach acid, you're going to have a hard time absorbing zinc, and you're going to have to take a little bit more. There are different types of zinc that you can take, which I'm going to do a video on that. But I just wanted to mention this one thing, and then we'll move on. One of the new symptoms that you're going to hear about with this COVID-19 virus out there is that a loss of smell.
I did hear that already.
Yeah. And even taste, like things start tasting like cardboard.
And you know what's interesting is many, many years ago, when we still had the healthcare center and we were using standard process, remember?
Yep, I remember.
So they had a test.
A zinc test.
A zinc test. And it had to do with your taste, what you could taste. And if you couldn't taste a certain thing, it was an indicator that you were deficient in zinc.
The way it works is if you take this this zinc fluid, and you can buy these tests online if you want. You can, it's on Amazon. They're just a zinc test. You take it, and if it tastes like metallic, like you got enough zinc. If you have no taste, like, oh, this tastes fine, then you're deficient in zinc. And so zinc is a critical part of a certain enzyme that allows you to smell and taste.
Interesting.
And so what they're not talking about is probably the reason why you're losing your smell with the coronavirus is because you also have a zinc deficiency, because zinc deficiency accounts for a lot of increased susceptibility to viruses. Also, like 16% of all of pneumonia is really related to a zinc deficiency. Like 16%, and that's a classical, like a major zinc deficiency. They're not talking about even all the subclinical types, like if you're slightly deficient in zinc. It's like zinc is very, very, very important, as you can tell.
Interesting. And so what about that and things like asthma or allergies or things? What do you think about
zinc is if you want a stronger immune system, you better have enough zinc. The thing is, though, people just don't get it because they are not eating the right foods, or they have gut problems and they're not able to absorb it. Animals have all sorts of deficiencies with zinc. There's like farmers a good farmer will always give their animals zinc because they know if they don't, they're going to have problems with growth and development and reproduction and all sorts of issues, immune problems. But in humans, we don't really connect the dots that well. I do want to say one thing. Like South Korea right now has they're improving. Everything's doing a lot better. China is doing fantastic. I don't even know if they have, if any, maybe 1 or 2 outbreaks a day, if that.
Really?
And, yeah. And
I didn't read that.
You just have to read the
I'm not
news,
up.
right?
I'm not up on that. That's
So-
amazing if that's true.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, both of these countries were using a derivative of chloroquine, which is hydroxychloroquine, which is a more mild version. And so they were using that. And so they're going to say, well, we don't know. We have to do the studies. It might take 4 months. Well, first of all, we don't have time right now to wait 4 months. It's crippling the economy right now, so we have to try something. So if you're not using the drug, well, at least start beefing up on the zinc, no pun intended, because you actually can get a good amount of zinc from red meat and liver and onions. Well, not the onion part, but you know what I'm talking about.
And
So
shellfish.
Yeah, but you know what food has the most zinc? Oysters.
Oysters, which I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
if you can get some oysters. Mostly people get, I guess, oysters at the market or like the fish market, which I don't know if is open, and restaurants, which
But
aren't
you know
open.
what we didn't talk about?
What?
Is intermittent fasting for your immune system.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, intermittent fasting is so powerful for the immune system. Your immune system starts to activate all these interesting genetic programs for survival, like fascinating. There's quite a few of them. And if you do periodic prolonged fasting, you will stimulate stem cells that can actually regrow your immune system. You actually get a new immune system, which is huge. So it's just so important to fast on a regular basis just to keep your immune system strong.
So when you say fast on a regular basis, so there's people out there, they're trying to eat properly. What does that mean?
It means no snacking. It means that you want to fast for minimally 18 hours a day and then have that 6-hour window where you can eat. And you want to go to drberg.com and just go right to the fasting videos if you're new to my channel and start learning how to do fasting. And
See how you
hunger
feel.
will go down. And I mean, it's hands down probably one of the most powerful things. And if you're a college student or you're on a low, you're on a severe budget and you don't, or let's say you don't have enough money to do anything, I think you could afford this. I think you could afford fasting. It's affordable for everyone nowadays. Because I always hear that, well, I can't afford keto. Well, can you afford fasting? I think you can.
and get rid of that freshman 15, as they call it.
What is that?
That's where they just eat junk food all day because that's what's on campus, and the freshmen gain 15 pounds.
But Steve, isn't junk food cheap nowadays?
Yeah, right.
Well, I find it fascinating because really it's the packaged foods that are more expensive. I mean, if you're talking about a box of pasta or something, okay, so that's going to definitely be cheaper. But I'll tell you, I said this last week, and I went into the grocery store again, and there are just tons and tons of vegetables and berries and sauerkraut and, I mean, tons organic at the, regular grocery stores. And I mean, even there was plenty of meat this week. Last week it was cleaned out. So when you say eat meat, it's not like hoard meat into your body and eat an unusual amount of meat, but it's make sure that you're incorporating the recommended
at least 3 ounces a day. That's going to be enough, I mean, to get your zinc. Now I'm going to talk about some additional very interesting things about zinc the things that are depleting your zinc. We've talked about some of those things, but after this this call here, so Nathaniel from Sacramento, California, you have a question. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hello?
Hello, hi.
Hi. Yes, well, I'm in Sacramento. I'm 19 years old. I've actually had 3 brain tumors, which affected different parts of my pituitary gland. I'm just starting out keto because it was recommended to me through the craniopharyngioma group on Facebook. I was just wondering if you had any tips or anything for a beginner.
Yes.
And I weigh like 400 pounds because of my brain tumors.
I got it. Okay, well, here's what you can do, Nathaniel. You're on the right path. If you just think about what's happening, if you reduce the carbohydrate, you're going to start generating ketones. Okay, ketones are an alternative fuel, but ketones are very, very, very supportive to your endocrine system, especially the pancreas hormones like insulin. But also the pituitary hormone. I'm going to be releasing a video on this, on how ketones affect the hormones like growth hormone, thyroid. And so if you think about the opposing diet, which is high carb, that's very damaging to your endocrine system. Now, I'm not talking about vegetable carbohydrates. I'm talking about the sugars and stuff like that. But I think you're going to be quite pleasantly surprised. And also, anything in your brain is going to benefit when you do ketosis. So you're going to provide the brain with the alternative fuel that it loves and it prefers, and it's going to support your pituitary. And think about what brain tumors and cancer live on. Mostly it's sugar. So by just switching over, you're going to handle a lot just with that simple action. So 3 simple things. Stop snacking, okay? Number 1, stop snacking 3 meals a day to start out with. Add more fat to the meal as you need it to be able to go longer so you can fast. Here's the rule. Don't eat unless you are hungry. So in the morning, ride the wave. Start to also eat a lot more greens, so then you have the nutrients, so you'll feel more satisfied, and so then you'll turn off that hunger, because you do need more potassium. And then just go to my website and watch the first and second video and keep it really, really simple. Thanks for your question. All right, Karen, I'm ready for another question.
Good. Well, someone asked, which is a good question here, are canned oysters or container oysters, will they have zinc also?
Yes, they will.
I'm excited now.
Yep.
Okay, good. Now, someone asked on YouTube a question, and I don't know if this is a medical question, like a diagnosis kind of question, so you can just, if you want to. Histamine intolerance. What causes that, and what can help resolve that?
So
or support it?
There's certain things, certain chemicals in vegetables and legumes and nuts that can increase this molecule called histamine, which creates a lot of inflammation in the body. So it's a test that you can do. I did an older video on this a long time ago. I should probably do a new one. And it's kind of a similar situation to lectins, which is another anti-nutrient, which can then stimulate an inflammatory response or increase your histamine. So in this situation, if you have this problem, the best thing to do is do carnivore for a while and not do a lot of vegetables or nuts or anything like that. Just do that, and your histamines will go down, and you'll feel much, much better.
And then how would you incorporate that again?
After 2 months, then slowly start adding some vegetables in. But make sure you're doing intermittent fasting, because that's probably the most powerful thing to help improve that situation. There's a lot of other things you can do that I'm itching to mention, but I want to try to keep the answers fairly basic and simple.
Okay. I have one more question.
Go ahead.
Here.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So there's a question, how much vitamin C or antioxidants or food with antioxidants should be eaten for the best benefit? Like, what is the recommended?
On a regular basis, the RDAs are roughly between like 70 and 90-ish milligrams of vitamin C. I always recommend that you do a food-based one or from actual vegetables. Sauerkraut has the most vitamin C out of anything. It's like 10 times the RDAs. But bell peppers are high. Any of the red peppers, the spicy peppers, the hot peppers, all are loaded with vitamin C. Of course, it's also in kiwi and stuff, which we don't recommend. I will plug our vitamin C because it's a new one right here.
Oh.
This vitamin C is chewable. And acerola berry, it has acai berry, it has blueberry and strawberry, just 4 berries, and it has 100 milligrams of vitamin C. So 2 of these a day will keep the doctor away.
And as note
to self.
Note to everyone that we were talking about supplements for kids. Well, we were going to bring Lucy here. This supplement,
she goes crazy over those things. She'll chew them.
Crazy, and it's little, and she can chew it. They're soft enough for toddlers to eat, so it's could be considered a children's supplement.
Yeah, there's no sugar in it, and it tastes good, and it's chewable. And like normally you need 1 as a maintenance, but then if you have 2, that's just for a little bit more protection. And I'm not claiming that this is going to cure any virus at all. So just making that note, it's just basically a good quality vitamin C with the whole complex if you wanted something.
Right. There's research forever on vitamin C and what vitamin C can benefit, and you should do your own research on that.
The reason why we created it is because 95% of all the vitamin C that is produced on this planet is from China. And that's made from corn syrup and cornstarch and sulfuric acid. It's made synthetically.
And it's just the ascorbic acid of the vitamin C.
Yeah, this is the whole complex.
The whole complex.
In the normal complex, you have an enzyme called tyrosinase, which has copper in it. It's good for collagen growth. There's the vitamin P factor, vitamin K factor, bioflavonoids, rutin, all these other components. So that's naturally occurring in vitamin C. So either get it from the food or a food-based nutrient.
Supplement, right.
Can I digress for just one quick second?
But as you do.
I know, out of ignorance, are clams and oysters, first off, they're different, right? But do they have the same benefits? Because I love clam chowder.
Clams and oysters are very similar. Oysters have just a little bit more, but clams are in second place.
But the only thing about clam chowder is it generally will have some flour in it, and it also has potatoes in it. So unless you're making your own keto clam chowder, just be aware of that.
Oh gosh.
It will have the things in the chowder that will prevent the zinc.
See, everything comes back to zinc, and I think now is a good time to talk about zinc. There are things called zinc antagonists, okay? There are things that are very antagonistic to zinc. They don't like zinc, they block zinc. So I'm going to go down the list, okay? Because I will do a video on this, but too much calcium, excess, will block zinc. Too much iron will block zinc. Tannins will block zinc. That's in tea. Okay? High sulfites will block zinc. That's in wine, which I know no one drinks around this time of the year. Excessive amounts of copper will block zinc. Phytates, we already mentioned that in the bran and the whole grain wheat that's supposed to be healthy with you. too much cadmium will block zinc. Now, one thing about cadmium is that the epicenter for the cadmium battery production is in China, and it's in the water supply, it's in the rice. So you get this cadmium in your body, and guess what? Cadmium will block the zinc. So cadmium toxicity will block zinc. It's in our water supply, it's in certain foods. Also, if you're a smoker, you probably have high levels of cadmium, that's going to block zinc.
Wow.
So there's a lot of things about this cadmium that, too much casein. Now casein is a protein in milk, can block zinc, and I'm talking mainly about the casein in certain products that are like a protein source. You're going to block zinc from that, but not whey. Now, how do you absorb zinc? Actually, if you have enough protein in the diet, you'll have better absorption with zinc.
So I have a question. You just listed all of these things out. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm immediately thinking, oh my gosh, that's a lot of bad news. How do I know if I have too much of these other things? And it gets a little more complicated. So how can we make it simple?
The best way to do is to stay tuned for my video that I'm going to be releasing in a couple days, that I'll walk you through step by step what to do, what not to do, because right now I'm just giving you the highlights and forcing you to go watch this video after I'm done.
Okay.
Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to mention
But
about
I mean,
this.
could you say that, okay, so these things tend to block zinc. Does that mean if I'm conscious to eat more zinc, that will go in, or is it going to block the zinc no matter how much I take?
No. Even if you have something with phytates or sulfites, and you're doing red meat, which is or shellfish at the same time, you're still going to get absorption of zinc, because the bioavailability of that, it won't negate it if you're having it. But if you're already deficient and you're only having that, like if someone's a vegan or a vegetarian or whatever, and they're just doing whole grains, and they're not taking zinc, they're going to have some issues. So yeah, zinc, from my viewpoint, is the most important trace mineral, simply because if you're deficient, your thymus shrinks, your spleen enlarges. I mean,
A lot of issues.
You get a lot of issues, Karen. A lot of issues. I forgot to say this too. You get lymphopenia. Well, what is that? Your lymph nodes shrink. Okay, that's your immune tissue. Your lymphatic system shrinks when you don't have enough zinc. Fascinating.
Wow.
Other than that, you'll be totally fine. I need to go to Susie. She's calling from Iowa. Are you there, Susie?
Yep.
Great. You had a question. Hi.
Yeah, I heard you earlier talking about fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
And I never thought about it, but mine is mostly on the right side of my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if I should do anything different for that. I do take naltrexone every day, which really helps.
Yeah.
But and I take a lot of vitamins. But I was wondering if any certain one that you recommended for that.
Well, you're going to be very glad that you called. But I have a question.
Thank you.
So, are you doing healthy keto, intermittent fasting yet?
Yes, I've been doing keto since January of last year, and I've lost 85 pounds. I'm to my goal.
Wow.
Yeah, and I eat just 6 hours from noon to 6 every day, and usually just one meal a day. And then I do eat almonds, which I know you don't recommend a lot, but I eat almonds every day, and then like an avocado.
Okay.
And then just one meal.
Okay. And do you get any type of bloating ever when you eat?
Well, I have lymphedema.
Okay.
So I wear like these pumps that I do every day for an hour, and it takes like some bloating out of my stomach and my legs, but typically I do have bloating in my stomach from my lymphedema.
Do you ever get belching or burping?
No.
Okay. Do you ever get pain that is up in the right jaw or the right side of the face?
No, but I do always have pain in my right shoulder.
Yeah. What part of your shoulder? Is it the More of the muscle that's connected to your neck or on the outside?
Muscle.
Okay. All right. This is what it is most likely, Susie. It is not fibromyalgia. It is usually liver or gallbladder. And I'm not telling you not to take the medication anymore. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that that medication, if you look up the side effects, can irritate the liver and the gallbladder. So it numbs the pain, but then it comes back. So one thing you may want to experiment with is to watch my videos on the gallbladder, do the manual massage work on the gallbladder, switch up the type of, like, cut down the fats that you're consuming and make sure you're not doing any MCT oil, and maybe even take some purified bile salts after the meal, and really support that gallbladder and that liver, because I believe that's why you have this problem here. And the problem is when you keep taking the medication. I'm not telling you not to take it. That could actually keep it there because of the side effect that it has with your liver.
Yeah. Talk to your doctor.
Yep. Thanks,
Talk
Susie.
to your doctor.
Thanks, Susie. All right. And then Mary from Warrenton, Virginia is on the line, and she just left for some reason.
Oh, bye, Mary.
I might have clicked.
Easy come, easy go.
So let's go to Tamika from Virginia Beach. Are you there, Tamika?
I'm here.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Barely.
There we go.
Maybe you're in a...
How about
No.
Okay, but I can
No.
actually read your question. So I'm gonna answer your question right here, because you said, this is Tamika's question. She wanted to know, she had gastric bypass. How can she do keto now? So,
that's a good question.
So Tamika, this is the cool thing. The only thing different is that you need to realize you're not going to be able to have the quantity of food that you could have because your stomach now is smaller. So you're just going to have a smaller meal, and you're going to have to, I would suggest do fasting for sure. That will help you. But here's the key. You don't have the full capacity of your small intestine, which means that you're going to have to enhance your diet with certain nutrients, like liquid trace minerals, for example, or some, especially the trace minerals, to get better absorption, and also maybe even some amino acids. There's a really good one that I recommend. It's called Keto Essential Amino Acids, because that way you want to get the nutrients without this bulk food, and take your B vitamins, and then eat super nutrient dense, and then you'll be fine. Because the problem with gastric bypass is that there's always going to be a deficiency if you don't eat the right foods and nutrients. So, but doing keto and intermittent fasting is the most important thing if you had gastric bypass. Thanks for your call. All right. Well, you got some interesting ones there.
Yeah. Okay, so here's one. Nails cracking and peeling and a sensation of itching underneath the fingernail.
Well, I think it might be two things, but it might be one thing. First of all, the nails respond very, very well to trace minerals. And there's a lot of different trace minerals that you could take, but I recommend just get the whole complex of trace minerals, because if you are deficient in one or two of those trace minerals, your proteins won't grow as well. So, and I'm not just talking about like nails, hair, and skin. I'm talking about proteins at the microscopic level inside your cell that do all the work. They're like the enzymes that make things in your body. But I've noticed, boy, when I take trace minerals on a regular basis, my nails go super strong, no splitting, nothing, and they just kind of go real nicely. The other thing with something growing or itching or the sensation underneath your nail, you want to probably take, I think the best thing is on a regular basis, oregano oil. A lot of people have certain unfriendly microbes growing inside their body and they don't know it. It could be either a fungus, a mold, a parasite, or some bacteria that's unfriendly. And they're hanging out and they basically just grow and they create all sorts of issues underneath your nails, and in which case that if you start to take, there's a lot of different remedies, but oregano oil not on a pizza, but just on a little pearl or a tablet a day will keep the doctor away. So it'll actually, I think it'll help.
All right, good. So here's another one. Wife has a chronic cough.
Sorry, what was that?
That's not funny right now.
Okay.
And our systematically, all of our monitors
Screens are getting sick.
Screens are.
Yeah.
I like the
Oh,
background.
I
it just
kinda
makes us
like
pop.
that.
It's so wild.
Okay,
We should
good.
keep it off from now on.
So, all
So
right.
someone has a chronic
they're
cough.
off. Wife has had a chronic cough for 7 years.
Okay.
And no remedy. Sought out care, and so far no resolution. What are your thoughts?
Well, I really like this solution because in practice, I would have people that have this chronic cough for years, and they didn't know what to do about it, and it's a very simple solution. Usually it's a calcium deficiency. There's a condition called laryngeospasm that is low on the list, but it's one of the symptoms of a calcium deficiency. And it could be that your stomach is not acid, that you're not pulling the calcium, but if you have calcium orotate, which is a highly absorbable type of calcium, it goes in like a rocket ship. Not a calcium carbonate, which is limestone, but a calcium orotate as a remedy, and you take that, boy, it's great for the little dry cough, irritation to your throat, and then take some vitamin D with it, and you're going to be good to go. Take it on an empty stomach, though, because if you take calcium with food, it inhibits the acid, and you won't digest as well.
Good
But yeah,
tip.
chronic
Try it out
coughing
and
is-
let us know if that makes any difference for her. Talk to your doctor about it.
Yes, talk to your doctor.
Talk to your doctor, do your own research, and let us know what happens.
Yes, so I'm going to be doing some interesting videos today, Karen.
Okay. What are you going to do videos on?
Well, I'm going to talk about a question, does zinc kill the coronavirus? I want to talk about that extensively. It's just a fascinating thing. I'm also going to talk about all the factors of zinc absorption, both good and bad. Things that block it, things that help you increase the absorption. I'm also going to talk about the loss of smell and the loss of taste, a little bit more on that. I'm going to be also talking about fever and how fever, what it does to an infection and why does that work and how does it work, and every little thing you'd ever want to know about fevers in your life.
Wow.
And you forgot to ask. I'm also going to be doing a video on some really basic definitions for a 12-year-old on the immune system. There's all these different terms like macrophages and monocytes. Like, I'm going to break it down so everyone can finally understand what that means. I do want to also talk about autism. So I'm going to be mentioning that. And then other than that, I have really nothing else to talk about than those topics. But
Well, that's good. Okay, well, we're going to wrap up today then, but we did want to say that, you know, we're really impressed with, I think not just the people in America, but all over the world. I mean, this is a really crazy time for everybody, and I think we're just seeing, you know, the average person really shine. Companies have been really giving, and people have been working together. You know, when we see our neighbors and other businesses and things like that, and I know we just want to say thanks for being amazing and remaining calm and being in as much action as possible and helping out as much as you can where you can, and
not being hysterical. Because
and
I
not
think
being hysterical, because hysteria kicks in the toilet paper purchasing gene.
Yeah. I mean, the best thing to do is just be a person that can help other people reduce stress. Be someone that can actually just help reduce stress, not add to the stress.
Right.
Because that's what we want to do.
And you know, there's obviously the rules of keeping your distance and quarantine when you need to and things like that. But you know, the thing that's exploding right now is all kinds of internet conferencing, and I recommend that. I mean, just because you maybe don't want to go to church or can't go to church doesn't mean you can't still meet in, you know, an internet environment, and you should. Anything that you find brings you calm and peace, meeting with your friends via the internet, having a Zoom gathering or a party or something like that. I mean, you just have to continue to do things that's going to bring you peace and normalcy and calm and strength. And fortunately, with the internet, there's ways to do that right now.
I think that gives me an idea. I want to have a party, an internet party. Everyone's at the party, but we're actually at one Zoom.
Yeah.
And we just had the party. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're doing a summit, guys. The summit is going to be
a party.
Virtual. It's going to be. We're switching to a virtual summit, and we just decided this like days ago. And so we're still going to have the summit in August, but you can now tune in because it's going to be a live streaming event. Stay tuned for more promotion.
Yeah.
So we're just switching, and that way everyone can attend no matter where they are in the world. And it's going to be very inexpensive. We'll send out the cost of that and everything, but it'll be some amazing speakers. And wait till you hear what I'm going to talk about. I've been working on this for months and months. Not this one, but it's I'm going to surprise people, but it's going to be great content. So stay tuned for more of that. Have a wonderful weekend.
Yep.
And we'll see you very soon.
We'll see you next week.